The week of May 5th, 2024 ended up being a huge week for the video games industry. Even ignoring all the controversy and surprise that happened in the AAA market, so many indie games released. Like, first of all, early in the week you had Hades 2, which was, what, the second or third most wishlisted game on Steam before it came out? But then, you also, on May 9th, so many indie games released that I'm actually looking forward to playing 2 of them. With how narrow my interests are, that's super rare that 2 games I want to play come out in the same day. Like, that's insane. But despite all of those releases, including a couple I have been looking forward to for a long time, like Little Kitty Big City, there was one in particular that I was more excited for than the rest. One game that will come out on May 10th, 2024, which besides Anton Blast was my most hyped game of the year. And that game is You Are Peter Shorts. Remember that 2023 Hidden Gems video I did back in January? That was only 4 months ago, it feels like forever ago. That video was initially conceived as an excuse to talk about You Are Peter Shorts when it was still slated for last year. Yeah, no joke, that was real. I know this game looks stupid at first glance, but so does Pizza Tower to the outside observer, and we all know how fantastic that game is, so hear me out on this one, okay? This game is a Metroidvania, beat-em-up, platform fighter hybrid, developed by one guy, OnlyDev? Actually, it's probably OnlyDev, I've just been saying Only in my head this whole time for some reason. Which has gotten pretty much no coverage since its initial release. When I wrote the script about 2 days after the game came out, oh my god, it's been 3 days since I wrote the script and I'm just now recording it. I am so bad at procrastination. When I wrote the script about 2 days after the game came out, there was no YouTube videos on it besides the trailers. Which is a dang shame, because the game lived up to my hype. Genuinely. Here's why. First of all, the story is delightfully absurd. While grilling, Peter Shorts is kidnapped by the government in order to be subjected to cloning experiments for the military. But one fateful day in his cell, a bug Peter springs forth from his dreams and blows a hole in the bars, giving Peter the chance to escape. So you go on a quest to save all of the Peter clones and escape the massive facility you're trapped in. This also has the funny side effect of Peter Shorts being the only character in the game outside of the main antagonist, as every enemy in the game is a clone of him. There's Baby Peters, Snail Peters, Alpaca Peters, Dragon Peters, and the list just goes on. The creativity in these designs is on full display here. It's really impressive how much mileage Andy was able to get out of the same guy. The controls are a little floaty for a fighter. I would have preferred if it was a bit tighter, but it's nothing you can't get used to. It may seem hard at first considering the first area requires you to land on missiles, but stick with it, it gets easier. If you have to, go to one of the other areas first. You can do them in any order apparently. After getting to an end of an area, an alter Pego will appear. These, much like Bug, are spawned from Peter's dreams, and they give you new powers after beating them, similar to Mega Man. Additionally, each area also has a hidden upgrade for forms that allows them to pull off a more powerful charged attack. The upgrades aren't super well balanced, like the Wind Peter just gives you so much height if you throw a tornado up and then spin into it, and the Electric Peter's neutral air does an insane amount of damage, but it's certainly satisfying to unlock new Peters as a result. Outside of those, the two main collectibles in the game are data discs, which allow you to read up on the Peter lore, and the Peter clones. Yeah, in order to get 100%, you actually have to save every enemy in the game, which sounds like a big ask, but it really isn't that bad. As long as you explore every room and defeat Peters as you find them, you'll save them by the end of the game. And if you miss one, they show up as pink squares on your map, so don't fret. Do work on collecting those data discs more than anything else, though. The reward for getting about 60% of them is super worth it. Hey, I'm sorry, I don't normally do this sort of thing, but I'm very close to 100 subscribers, and I'm working on a large special that I'm gonna try to release as a 100 subscriber special, and I can't do that if I don't hit the milestone, so I would really appreciate it if you subscribe, please. The segment will probably self-destruct when I reach the milestone, so exclusive content for the early watchers, I guess. So finally, on to the combat. It is surprisingly in-depth. Every Peter has 5 attack moves, with one having up to 3 stages of charge. An air dodge, grabs, parries, and even teching. There's teching in this game. As a result, the combat is super fun. It does lean a little bit more into the party aspect of it, as opposed to like a Smash Bros. Melee, because you get you fall in the hit stun every time you get hit that you have to wiggle out of. But it's the fun kind of chaotic. The game is balanced around it. And don't worry about your skill level. If you're really bad at chaining combos together and are kind of fumbling around, the AI will take notice and will also fumble around. And that's the main game. It consists of puzzle solving, exploration, and occasionally you'll be locked into these little boundaries to do combat. It's perfectly long too. My 100% playthrough of the game took me over 7 hours. Granted, I spent about 30 minutes trying to get to the top of this room because I did not know about the blow air up into spin trick, and the final boss probably took me longer than it should have, but it's still definitely a meaty game. Okay, I wrote that final boss part before I watched Twitch streamers play the final boss, and no, it just sucks. The final boss actually just sucks in this game. Here's a pro tip to make it not suck. Right before the final boss, there will be like this room with 2 paths. There's a vent, there's a path to the left, and there's a vent. Go on the path first, and then after you beat the game, come back and do the vent. It makes the final boss much harder if you do this vent first, for whatever reason. But even after you beat the game still keeps going with a ton of extra modes. There's a wave-based high score mode, a post-game enemy and item randomizer, although it doesn't randomize the bosses, which is pretty disappointing, but whatever. And even a 4-player battle mode where every Peter in the game is playable. Insane. And that's You Are Peter Shorts, a super fun Petervania with simple yet complex mechanics, great sprite work, creative level design, and a banger soundtrack. The game was a little buggy at launch, but the developer has worked hard putting out hotfix after hotfix over opening weekend and the days since, and now it's quite stable. This is honestly one of my favorite games of 2024. I can't recommend it enough, and it deserves more players. Maybe not too many players though. After all, when everyone is Peter Shorts, no one will be. That is not how the saying goes.